Hi everyone, I am Mr. Aldalli Shanavasappa, Assistant Professor. Welcome you all for today's session. Today in this session we will discuss about electrolytic process and electroplating. So let's see what actually the meaning of electrolytic process, how it works and how it is used for electroplating. Now let's see what is actually the meaning of electrolysis. Electrolysis is nothing but it is a process by which electric current is passed through a substance to effect a chemical change. It means consider a substance. Through that substance an electric current is made to pass through. When electric current passes through a substance, chemically it will change. So the substance will change its chemical behavior. So chemical change is nothing but it's just a substance losing or gaining an electron. Consider any of the metal. When current passes through the metal, there will be change in the electrons. Either it will gain the electron or lose the electron. If this process taken places, that is called electrolysis. Okay, so now let's see how actually this happens. So electrolyte is a chemical compound whose molecules are closely bound together. So this is how the molecules will be. So the molecules will be closely bound together. But when it is dissolved in a water, means when we dissolve that substance in a water and forms a solution, the molecules split up into two types of ions. So those molecules will be split into two types of ions when we dissolve it in a water and forms a solution. And those two ions are positive ions and negative ions. Okay, so we get a positive ion and a negative ions when we dissolve the substance in a water and forms a solution. So it should be formed in the form of a solution. Then we get these two ions. And for now what happens if two electrodes are dipped, means if I have two electrodes into the solution, into this electrolytic solution, and if I connect those two electrodes to a DC source, if I connect those two electrodes to a DC source, positive ions will move towards the cathode and the negative ions will move towards the anode. So the work is going to take place here. Movement of ions will be there. Positive ions will be attracted towards the cathode and negative ions will be moved towards the anode. To understand this, let us take an example. This as an example here. We have a container and there is a copper and sulfate. So we have copper sulfate solution which is dissolved in the water. So when we dissolve that copper sulfate in a water, we can call it as a copper sulfate solution. And two electrodes are connected which are dipped in the solution. The positive electrode can be named as positive anode and the negative electrode can be named as cathode. And we have a DC supply here. And these electrodes are made up of copper. Now let's see what actually happens here. So here when copper sulfate is dissolved in water, as I already told you, it becomes copper sulfate solution and we give a DC supply. So this solution will dissociate into two charges, that is positively charged copper ions and negatively charged negatively charged sulfur ions. Here it is. So positively charged copper ions, you can see it here, and negatively charged sulfur ions. These two ions will be moving freely in the solution. So when we dip two electrodes into that and we connect a DC supply, definitely there will be flow of current in the electrodes. So the positively charged copper ions move towards cathode. You can see here positively charged copper ions will be moving towards the cathode. It will be attracted towards the cathode, and negatively charged sulfur ions SO4, those negatively charged sulfur ions will be moving towards the anode. So each of the positively charged copper ions on reaching the cathode, so when this copper ion reaches the cathode, it will be taking two electrons from it and it becomes a metallic atom of copper and gets deposited on the cathode in a very pure form. So when this copper attracted towards the cathode, it will be taking two electrons out from it and it will be deposited on this cathode and it will be deposited in the form of pure copper. That is about the copper attracted by the cathode. It forms pure copper on this electrode, negative electrode or a cathode. Similarly, the negatively charged sulfur ions on reaching the anode, so these sulfur ions when it reaches the anode will give up two electrons to it, means it will give 2 electrons to it because it is having 2 negative electrons. Those 2 electrons will be given to the anode and become a sulfate molecule. It will become a sulfate molecule. These sulfate molecules at the anode react with water. So these sulfate molecules will be reacted with the water and liberate oxygen out of it. So here when copper is coming in contact with the cathode, it is framing a pure copper on the cathode, whereas when sulfion are coming on the attracted towards the anode, it is deposited here and it is going to get reacted with the water and liberate oxygen. So chemically we can see it here. So sulfions plus reacting with the hydro H2O, that is water. So when sulfions reacted with the water, it will liberate oxygen, O2. It will liberate the oxygen, right? So in addition of oxygen, sulfuric acid is also formed on the cathode. So there will be a sulfuric acid which is formed at the cathode. If the anode is made up of a copper, this sulfuric acid will attack the anode, forming copper sulfate. See, if the anode are made up of copper, then what happens? The sulfuric acid will get reacts with the copper and it will form a copper sulfate, and this copper sulfate will liberate hydrogen out of it. So from the anode we will get as a hydrogen also. So we are getting hydrogen out of this solution, we are getting oxygen out of this solution, we are also getting a pure copper which is deposited on the cathode. Hence during this entire process we can say that the copper from anode is deposited on cathode, that is in the pure form, and this complete process is known as electrolysis. I hope it is clear for you now what actually the electrolysis is. So we can say that electrolysis is a process which is used to extract a pure form of metals like copper, zinc, aluminium, magnesium, etc. from their particular ores. It can also be used for so many other applications. Let's take up that point later. Now I hope it is clear for you that electrolysis is a process where we extract the pure form of metals, right? Now let's move for the another topic. Now we shall have a look over where do we use the electrolysis process. I hope already you got an idea that electrolysis process is used for extracting of pure metals. With an examples I explained you. The second part of means where do we use this is refining of metals. Refining of metals means such as gold, silver, copper. So these are the some of the metals which is needed to refine. So we can obtain the shine of those materials again by having electrolysis. And the third application is this is used for manufacturing of various chemicals such as potassium, caustic soda, chlorine, etc. And also it is used for electroplating process. This electroplating process I will just take up one topic on this and I will explain you what actually this means. Okay, and also we can use it for building up of own parts in a chemical or in any other industries. Means in industries there may be a chance of having any damages happen into a metal that can be built up using this electrolysis process. So these are the points where we actually use this electrolytic process. Now let's move on for the laws, that is the Faraday's laws. We have two statements made by the Faraday's law on electrolysis. Let's have a look over that. Faraday's first law of electrolysis states that the mass of substance liberated during electrolysis is directly proportional to quantity of electricity flowing through the electrolyte. It means the mass of substance is nothing but, if I consider the earlier example, their copper was the substance liberated. So the quantity of copper which is liberated during that electrolysis process is directly proportional to the quantity of flow of current through the electrolyte, right? So the quantity of mass which is developed in the electrolysis process is directly proportional to the quantity of electricity current flowing through it. That is what it means. So you can say that the mass is proportional to the quantity of electric current, that is charge. Charge is nothing but it is proportional to the flow of current with respect to time. So in general we can say mass is equal to ZIT. Okay, so where Z is nothing but means mass is proportional to the I and T, that is current and time, because that is what we are giving as an input. But if you remove the proportionality symbol, then we can equate it as ZIT, where Z is a constant parameter. Let me see what actually all these things are. Mass will be mass is nothing but this is the mass of the substance which is liberated by the electrolysis process, and it will measured in the terms of kg. So how much of kg of copper we got out of that? That is an example. Okay. Z is nothing but that is a constant which is known as electrochemical equivalent, and this is measured in terms of kg per coulomb. Then I is the current in amperes, T is the time for which the current flows in seconds. So this is about the first law. So from the first law, it is clear that the mass means the quantity of a substance liberated during electrolysis is proportional to the quantity of electricity flowing. Now, if there are different electrolytes we have, say there are 5 different electrodes, and in those 5 different electrodes I will provide the same quantity of electricity. If same current is flowing in all the different electrodes, then will we get the mass which is proportional to the current, or will we get the mass means the quantity which is proportional to the electrolyte? So there will be a question like this. Okay, so it means if I consider 5 different electrolytes and I make the same current to flow through all the different electrolyte solutions, then the quantity which is developed means the mass of the substance liberated will not be proportional to the current. At that situation, the mass of the substance liberated will be proportional, directly proportional to their respective chemical equivalents. Okay, that is what the second law says. So when the same quantity of electricity is passed through several electrolytes, the masses of the substances liberated are proportional to the respective chemical equivalents or equivalent weights. So you just need to be very clear about these two laws. First law says that whenever the mass is liberated, that mass is directly proportional to the electricity flowing through the electrolyte. That is only if we have only one type of electrolyte. If there are several different electrolytes are there and the same current is flows through that, then the mass liberated is not dependent on the current. The mass liberated is dependent on the respective chemical equivalent. So what is that chemical equivalent? So chemical equivalent can be given as atomic weight of that particular substance by valency. So let's have a table in which we can see the chemical weights of different elements. Here we have element different aluminum, copper, gold, so many elements I have given here, and its atomic weight is defined. Valencies are also predefined. The chemical weight is going to change with respect to this. As I already told, chemical weight is nothing but it's a ratio between the atomic weight and a valency. So here I have written that chemical weight. So atomic weight is 27, valency is 3, so the chemical weight will be 9. Chemical equivalent will be 9. So chemical equivalent of different element will be different. It is not same. So we can say that according to second law, the mass of substance which is liberated is directly proportional to the chemical equivalent of that particular element. Okay. So this is what actually the second law says. Now let's have a different parameters, different terminologies which we are going to use in this electrolysis process. The first important terminology is current efficiency. So current efficiency is nothing but it is a ratio of the actual quantity of the substance deposited to the theoretical quantity of the substance deposited as calculated from Faraday's laws. To understand this, let me take this example here. So already we have discussed that there is a copper sulfate solution, and on this cathode copper is deposited. So what is the quantity of that copper deposited on this electrode? So that is means practically when we see this, there will be some deposition of copper on this electrode. That is actual quantity of that copper which is deposited. So if you take ratio of that actual quantity of substance which is deposited due to the theoretical quantity of the substance, means theoretically when we do calculation, when we calculate according to the Faraday's laws, then we get the theoretical quantity of it. So that theoretical quantity will be different from the actual quantity. Means actual quantity of the copper deposited by theoretical quantity of the copper deposited is known as current efficiency, right? So definitely theoretically it will be having more than the actual practical thing. That's why the efficiency is going to vary from 90 to 98%. If you take a chromium plating, its efficiency is very low, that is 15%. I hope this is clear what is the current efficiency is. Actual value divided by the theoretical value of the substance deposited. Now let's move on for the energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is defined as the theoretical energy required for depositing a certain quantity of the substance to the actual value of the energy required. So whereas in the current efficiency, when we compare current efficiency and the energy efficiency, in current efficiency we have just calculated the quantity of substance deposited. Here we are considering the energy required to develop that quantity of substance required deposited. Okay, so the energy required will be, theoretically it will be different, actually it will be different. So the ratio of the theoretical energy required to actual energy required is called energy efficiency. I hope this is clear up to now. Now let us see what is this electroplating means. Electroplating is nothing but a coating of a metal. So providing a coating on a metal is nothing but an electroplating. So in terms of definitions, we can say that it is an electrolytic process in which a superior metal, means or a noble metal, is deposited on a inferior metal or a base metal. So we are just providing one coating on a metal, that is nothing but electroplating. Okay, so electroplating can be done for the different purposes. So we can see what are the purposes where we go for an electroplating. So we can do this electroplating to protect the metals against corrosion. We can take an iron and we can have a electroplating on that iron rod, so that the corrosion can be avoided. It can be protected against the corrosion. We can also use this electroplating to give reflecting properties to the reflectors. So the reflecting materials has to have a reflecting properties that can also be achieved by electroplating. It also used to give shiny appearance to the articles. You can have an idea about ornaments, and there are so many materials which need to be have some shiny appearance over there. For those materials we can have an outer coating by this electrolysis process, so that the shining of it will be more. You can have heard about the gold coating. So ornaments will be there, for that we can have a gold coating, so that its appearance will be similar to the gold. So that can be done by electrolytic process, that is called as electroplating. And it is also used to do the repair of the worn out materials. Worn out materials means if there is any damage happens, then we can have a coating using this electrolytic process, which will repair the materials here. So these are the process or purposes where we go for an electroplating. During electroplating, the metals to be coated must be in a pure form. So whichever the metals which we need to coat, that must be in a high purity form. So before going for an electroplating, we need to follow these precautions. So these are the necessary precautions has to be taken. First thing is, we need to remove the oil, grease and the organic materials from the surface of the metals which is to be coated. This can be done by using by cleaning it with a soap, or it can be cleaned with a hot alkali solutions or organic solvents such as gasoline can be used to remove the oil and grease. Okay, you need to remove those oil content, grease contents and any organic materials content from the surface of the material which is to be coated. Then next point which we need to take care is, we need to remove rust and oxide lines. Oxide lines is nothing but there may be a cracks over the surface, that has to be removed, and any other inorganic coatings has to be removed. This can be achieved by cleaning the metals by various acids. We need to clean it with various acids, alkalis and salt solutions. These can be used to remove the rust and oxide lines. Finally, the metals are polished by mechanical abrasion, or nothing but mechanical scratching or scrubbing. So doing this, we can just polish it, so that we can get the pure form of an article or a pure metal on which we can go for an electroplating. So this will be an efficient electroplating. If you want to get an efficient electroplating, you need to take care of all these 3 points, right? I hope it is very clear for you now. So let's see the way of getting the power supply for electrolytic process. So what is the voltage, what is the current, and how to get that. So that will be the last topic here. Power supply for electrolytic process is a DC supply required, and the voltage level will be of very low, that is 10 to 20 volt, whereas the current required is in terms of hundreds, 100 to 200 amps. So it is very clear that we need a less voltage but bit high current. Hence the total power, when you combine this, the power required will be small. So such small power can be obtained in two different ways. One is by having a motor generator set and also by having a metal oxide rectifier. Motor generator set means it takes a big space and also its cost is also more. So comparatively, a metal oxide rectifier will be the better option. Metal oxide rectifier is nothing but it is a semiconductor rectifier in which copper oxide is used as a semiconductor. It may be a copper oxide or a selenium, and they were used to convert the alternating current to direct current. Here in electrolytic process we need a direct current, so there will be a transformer which will giving you the alternating current, and in that transformer we use a metal oxide rectifier so that alternating current can be converted to direct current. This is one way of this is the way of metal oxide rectifier. So metal oxide rectifier will be preferred compared to the earlier one because it is going to occupy very less space. The maintenance cost will be low. Operating is also higher operating efficiency, and also it is protected from corrosive fumes because we can say that this rectifier is placed in the transformer which is going to have an oil, so that it is protected from the corrosive fumes of the electrolyte. The chance of corrosive is also reduced. So these are having some of the benefits which we have for a metal oxide rectifier. That's why we can go for a metal oxide rectifier for supplying the power to electrolytic process. So this is all about the electrolysis and applications of the electrolysis. I hope this is very clear. If it is clear for you, like this video and share among your friends. Thank you.